Welcome home, neighbors.
Welcome home, neighbors.
Hello, neighbors.
We're listening from
Arizona,
Florida,
Maryland, New York, New Jersey,
Indianapolis,
California,
Utah,
Michigan,
Iowa, Massachusetts,
Georgia, Canada,
our home resort is
Animal Kingdom,
Polynesian,
Bay Lake Tower,
Old Key West,
Riviera,
Boardwalk,
Alani Resort,
Hilton Head,
Boulder Ridge,
Copper Creek,
Grand Floridian,
Saratoga Springs,
Beach Club,
and Wilderness Lodge.
and you're listening to
and you're listening
You're listening to my
DC
voice.
Well, welcome home, neighbors. My name is Chad Pennycuff, and I am your host tonight for our Community Hall live show here on March 31st, 2021. And I would like to thank, before we get started into the normal show, I'd like to thank DVC Rental Store for sponsoring Season 5 of the My DVC Points platform. Tonight, we are talking all about cruises. And if you want to cruise with points, the best value out there is to contact the DVC Rental Store. They'll pay you $16 a point to rent out your points. $16 cash. If you go to trade those in on a cruise, I just booked one for the Wish because it was the inaugural one. And we'll talk about that maybe a little tonight as to why it was that DVC member exclusive cruise. It was the only way to get on the ship. And so I ended up having to take $8.50 a point. I don't know about you, but I would rather have 16 versus $8.50 for a point. DVCRentalStore.com. Let them know you heard about them here. They will be glad to rent your points out and get you booked on a cruise at a much, 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 much better value than going through Disney Direct. So that being said and done, let's come in and start to kick off our show tonight. I would like to welcome back to the show our regular co-host, and it has been a very, very, very long time since we've got to hang out with Mr. Brad Coates. How you doing, Brad?
Wow, very, very, very long time. Woo, you've missed me a lot.
We have. I know you've had some emergencies coming up, and then seems like before that we went through a whole string of series on shows where you were going, dude, that ain't my show. Like
that's a good point. Well, I'm glad to be back. Yay.
Yes, I'm glad to have you back as well. And then we ought to just make Brian a regular on our show, okay? Because I keep saying that he's a special guest, but Brian, you just keep showing up so often. We're just gonna make you tack up a My DVC Points sign in the other side of your window there.
I'll put a sticker right here. I'm no longer special. That's what you're saying. It's just me. I'm just regular old guest now.
No,
so yeah.
No, now you're a guest who's special.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, either way, Brian, we're glad to have you on the show tonight. And tonight we're talking about Disney Cruise Line. And really three main questions that'll be coming up in the show tonight. And so, Gina, go ahead with our first question. It's, what changes do you anticipate that are going to happen when the cruise line returns? I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm booking my first cruise for like the 5th time. Hopefully I'll make it onto this one. So I don't know about what was there to come back in. So I'm going to rely more on Brad and Brian's knowledge here, and then we'll get comments from everybody else who's listening. So what changes do you guys anticipate?
Well, I was going to say, Chad, before we dive into that, what's changing for you is you'll actually get to sail now. So that's a big change. That's a big change for you.
And now there's no cash refunds because it was that stupid point exchange deal. So I'm like on the hook for this one. So there's no backing out now. Okay.
There you go. Well, if you're asking what's going to change, I mean, in the short term, a lot. If you've been on a Disney cruise before, I think we're already starting to see what that's going to look like through other cruise lines that are sailing out of the UK currently. MSC Cruises had their first cruise out of the UK last week. Disney's going to have their cruises start later in July, lagging a few weeks behind. But, you know, from MSC, you can already tell there's social distancing, masking requirements, vaccination requirements. You're not going to the buffet and picking your own food, limited capacity at shows. So just lots of kind of the standard COVID related things that we've come to know over the past 18 months of our lives are being imported onto these cruise ships. I don't know that all of those are, I certainly don't think all of them are going to stay for the long haul, but in the short term, that's we're all going to have to just expect and live with some of those changes, I think. But Brad, I don't know what you anticipate seeing change, but
yeah, you know what? You pretty much nailed it. The biggest thing right now is what we know is going to change is a lot more limited than what we are anticipating is going to change, and so that's the challenge. Because right now it's Are they going to go full vaccination cruises? There's definitely hints along that line, and possibilities, but I don't know how you can do that when kids can't be vaccinated. So, it's a balancing act to see if it's going to be full vaccine and you don't have to wear your mask in open areas, and but I haven't seen anything specific on that yet. Have you?
Have we heard anything on masks in open areas? Because I know the parks are starting to relax, but the parks are Florida, and Florida is kind of a leading edge on pushing back to normalcy here.
Yeah, what we know right now is out of the UK, right? Those are the restrictions they have, and that's a completely different scenario and set of government requirements over there. On the vaccination front here in the US, the CDC paved the way for getting cruise lines started faster if they're willing to have at least 95% of the guests, and I forget what percentage of the crew, but over 90% of the crew vaccinated on board. They can skip test cruises and head straight to paying cruises. I actually suspect something that Brad mentioned, kids. I could see Disney Cruise Line taking what they've done over in the UK and importing into the US, which is essentially everyone of a certain age and over must be vaccinated to get on board, but still allow for children under a certain age to not be vaccinated. That would mean then, more likely than not, that's not going to meet the 95% threshold for the CDC's requirements. And so you'll probably see Disney have to do test cruises. And so I think one thing we should all anticipate is that Disney is going to, like they did in the UK, they're going to lag. They're going to lag the big cruise companies. They're not in any hurry. They only have 4 ships currently. They've got a huge corporation behind them that's making money off of a number of different properties and Disney Plus. And so they are not in the same kind of situation that Norwegian or Carnival is finding themselves in, where their only source of income is really the sailings. And so I suspect you'll see the Norwegians, the Carnivals, the celebrities cruising first out of Florida and give Disney, the same kind of like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks after before you're going to see them really start sailing again. So
agreed. I think one other change too that we got to kind of keep our eyes on too, once they get going, is with all the different commentations going on with other lines, excursions. How is Disney going to fall on that? Are they going to go strictly with the ones that you book on board? Because some of the lines now are talking, right, Brian, about allowing, if you're fully vaccinated, to go ahead and get off the ship and not have to be locked in. But be interesting to see what Disney does.
Well, and it'll be hard if part of the ship is vaccinated and part of it isn't, even if it's just the
exactly.
I mean, I know
tracking is going to be insane.
I know in the middle of the pandemic, there was some discussion that Disney might have approached some of the shore excursion providers in like St. Thomas, I think specifically for Megan's Bay Beach, around setting up kind of like a dedicated area for guests. And we actually saw, is it Costa Cruises? I forget the cruise line over in Italy. It might have been MSC actually, but they started sailing and they sort of enforced the cruise line bubble, right? So you all got tested, you went on excursions in a bubble. If you broke the bubble, you couldn't get back on the ship.
Right.
It may be that Disney does that in the short term. So,
well, and I think that was MSC, and they actually had a couple of people that tried to bucket.
Yes.
Sent home.
And they couldn't get back on. Yeah.
Get back on ship.
Yeah. Especially because we have to remember, when you're talking about port excursions, you're talking about sailing to other countries, right? That's the thing we have to keep in mind. And a lot of these countries in the Caribbean are not achieving the vaccination rates that the United States has achieved. And, over in Europe, it's the same thing. So like we're all in different places on the COVID recovery at the moment. And so you're sailing into a foreign port, you got to sort of take into account the local situation when you're thinking about how you're going to protect the passengers on board. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just glad our ship it's only going to Castaway Key, Brian. So we're like in the bubble the whole time. Okay. Because if they don't have their own private island bubbled, they got some serious problems. Okay.
For sure.
That's a really good question though, as to like, can you get off and do things, or does it even make sense to even have port stops at this point in time? It's just like, hey, we're driving by, wave at the people on the dock.
Yeah. Well, it's a sticking point for Alaska right now, right? I mean, they passed the law that allows them to bypass the Canadian port stops, but those ships stop in some of those ports for resupply and other things. So it's not always as simple as saying we're going to sail on by, right? For a 3-4 night cruise, sure, you can provision enough stuff. But if you're watching when you're in port, they sometimes are bringing on more provisions and things. So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to stop to get that stuff. And so you might actually see technical stops where they're just stopping to get those provisions on board and not letting people off. We don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if Brad, do you know if Celebrity has announced with like the sailing of the Apex, if they're making stops or what those itineraries look like?
I haven't. So they haven't said anything about the stops in Canada
Yeah.
like that. So
Okay.
but it
Well,
makes
I mean,
sense. You got a good point.
yeah, we do know changes are coming. And Samantha here, your wife, is saying that she bets that masks are still on in all indoor areas. And that wouldn't shock me because
Oh, yeah.
Disney hasn't given that up yet.
Yeah.
And I think Disney's going to err on the side of conservatism.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a political way. I just think they're going to be the most restrictive out of all people
Well,
to
yeah.
to
Well, and
keep this down.
the CDC is being more restrictive when it comes to cruise lines. That's the other thing, is that the CDC is imposing requirements that, like right now, it might be fine for you to have a mask off in an outdoor area, but there are specific sets of requirements for the cruise ships to start sailing again. And I'm guessing one of them is going to continue to be masking. So,
Yeah. And then she was saying that fish extenders are a no-go, at least
Sure.
temporarily.
And that makes sense.
And
I find this one to be I'll just say that I find this one to be a little odd because Disney's rationale for this is to avoid congregation in the hallways. And I don't know if you've been on a Disney cruise and you participated. I have never seen like 4 people standing out someone's stateroom.
All lined up, next.
Yeah. I actually am wondering if this is they've taken the opportunity with the parks to do some things that people never thought they'd get away with, right, in normal times, but they've used COVID as a cover for it. I'm curious to see if for some reason Disney has been wanting to sort of get rid of the fish extender
That's
gift
an
exchanges on
interesting
board.
thought. Yeah.
I can't I would not understand why they would care so much, but I did notice that they took this, like the rationale for it seems really odd to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I can
Well, I
see
mean-
it and cross, contamination kind of things, but
research after research said that whole contaminating from touching thing just isn't happening. It's not how COVID is spreading.
Yeah.
It's droplets in the air, that kind of a deal. So all of this safety theater we've been doing with all of the bleach and the spray bottles and everything else has just been safety theater. So make people feel good. And I don't get it. But okay. Moving on. Gina says, hoping in the next year will be almost normal and can do fish exchangers and magnet exchanges.
they're fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping as well. I don't see what placing a magnet on somebody's door can really mess up, but
except we're going to have to change the name. Apparently they released that the new decoration on the Wish doors is going to be Cinderella's coach. And so it won't be the little, it won't be the little fish anymore. So we'll have to figure out a different name for them, I suppose.
What's it going to be, like a wagon extender or, a tow hitch on the coach? So, and Amy Meeker Taylor was saying, she was agreeing with me. She goes, it's not about surfaces. And that much we know. Okay. So it sounds like we're going to have some level of mass. We're going to have some level of restrictions on port excursions coming up. And that pretty much sums it up if we're going to get to do this. And so my next question is Gina's original question here was, what itineraries are you guys looking forward to the most? And then I kind of thought of it and I'm like, well, if you're really looking forward to it, why haven't you booked it? So are you guys booked on any upcoming cruises, or what ones are you guys eyeing that are out there? So anybody dreaming? Brian, you said in our pre-show countdown, you had what, 6 or 7 cruises booked?
I counted. It's 6. We have 6 cruises booked between now and next September. And so the answer to your question is, are we booked for any upcoming cruises? The short answer is yes. We have a cruise in November that we're really excited about. We're hoping it happens, but it's in November. So we're hopeful, given all the news here, that it will. But it's a double dip to Castaway Cay on a very maritime cruise over Thanksgiving. It is just so many awesome things rolled up into one cruise. Yeah. We've got a cruise in February out of New Orleans that we may actually kick out a year because we've got too many cruises planned as it is. But out of New Orleans, headed to Key West and Castaway Cay. And then we have an April cruise for spring break and the Baja cruise out of San Diego. And then, Chad, we're headed to the maiden voyage and meeting up with you for a DVC cruise for back-to-back on the Wish. And then after that, in September, We're flying across the pond, as the Brits would say, to sail out of Dover on a Norwegian fjords cruise. So yes, we have tons of cruises booked with Disney Cruise Line here.
Okay. All of it's DCL. You're not cheating on us, Brian?
All of it's DCL until the summer of 2023, when we're taking a Norwegian Cruise Lines cruise up to Alaska. Which if Disney had put the Wonder in Seattle, or announces that they're putting the Wonder in Seattle, we'll be going to an Alaska cruise. We can't resist taking DCL out of Seattle. So I mean, we live.
I was going to say, I'm crashing at your house if that's happening, Brian. So like, clean off a spot on the couch. I'll figure out
it's yours.
I'll figure out a way, right?
It's yours.
Brad, what about you? Any cruises on the agenda coming up?
Nothing on Disney. I tried, but it didn't. I won't get into the whole story, but I tried to get on board to get onto the Disney Wish. I tell you what, if that was the one, that would be the one I'd be looking forward to, because I love the changes, the multiple changes on the Disney Wish, which is unique for Disney, for DCL. Usually there's like one show different, two of them kind of the same, a new restaurant that's restyled and rethemed. This time they have so completely redone this ship that I'm looking forward. So I'm going to wait till it pops up for the second wave, and I'm going to try real hard to get on that. But if I was to pick my favorite, I saw where Brian talked about a Southern Caribbean. That probably, I misread the thing you put up first, Chad. I thought I was asking what are our favorite itineraries, and I love the Southern Caribbean. That was probably our favorite trip we ever took. And then the next one, interestingly, was Mexican Riviera. And maybe it's just because they're different. Brian, you said Baja. Are you doing just the shorter Baja one? Are they doing, or are you doing a full Mexican Riviera down the?
We're doing a 5-night out of San Diego that I think stops at what is that, Cabo and Ensenada. Yeah. So we've done this cruise before. We're going with some friends, and probably we're backing it up with on the DVC side. We're going to be staying at the Grand Villa at the Grand California. So just burned every point I had to book that one.
I was going to say, you managed to get into there. You got to go.
So much for that excess points that you had there, Brian. So
between the Wish and a Grand Villa at the Grand Cal, I'm good for now. So yeah.
And I will say, I'm finally going to. I hope within the next year I will finally give in, and I'm going to do an Alaska cruise. I grew up in Colorado, and so I'm a beach guy, and I got my scuba certification when I was 58, I think it was, finally, and so I love to go to the beach, but I got to go to Alaska. I mean, everybody talks it up, and I know it's going to be way better than a different experience than just growing up in the mountains. So that's got to be on the docket for next year. So I hope.
Now, are you going DCL on that, or are you going to save a few pennies and go with another brand?
That one's a tough call, because here's where my struggle is. I'm gold. I got to do 2 more cruises to get to platinum. So I'm at the point now where I got to get in a couple more cruises just so I can get there. So if the dates work, I'll take Disney.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm probably with Brian. I'm not a big Norwegian fan, but the Norwegian ships that sail to Alaska are nice. They've got some very nice ships. So
we're staying in the what do they call it? The Haven.
Oh,
but it's shocking, because I think you can stay in the Haven on a Norwegian Cruise Line ship for about what it costs to go on a Disney Alaska cruise.
Yeah.
So just staying in a regular. Yeah. So
wow.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
It's high-end concierge. It's unbelievable, but it's unbelievable. Oh
yeah.
Well, I've got the one booked that's the DVC exclusive cruise. It's not the member cruise. It's a DVC exclusive cruise, which is the second sailing of the Wish. So Brian and I are tag teaming on that one, and we've got adjoining staterooms. So we were able to pull that one off. And then come December, I should have Florida residency status. So I'm going to be looking for those last minute deals that just say, please, Florida residents, come fill up our ships. And then you'll be seeing doing the old Arnold Horshack maneuver. Ooh, pick me. So that's kind of what I'm hoping and shooting for is kind of my plan with DCL on that one. And once
you sail once, Chad, you're going to be okay. So I only need 9 more to get to platinum.
Well, that's where these like 3-nighters come back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
let's pop over there for a couple of nights and bang one of these things out and not even have to lose much work in the process. So that's the plan.
The real question is if the goalposts have just moved on us, though. If everyone who's platinum is now like, how do I get 15 more sailings in before they release the next ship? Because I want to book on day one. So
yeah, I could tell you, Brian. I think they're going to end up moving the goalposts on that one. So they're probably going to revisit and revamp the whole platinum Castaway.
I don't know that they'll revamp it. I mean, they might make it to 15 to get to platinum.
Well, they essentially did revamp it. Okay.
Well, yeah, but I think what they'll end up doing is I personally think that was a test by Disney to just kind of gauge like, okay, at what point did the call volume get high enough that it was like, this is a good dividing line, and that's going to become the new tier. They're going to add a fourth tier. Yeah. The pixie dust tier, the titanium tier, the vibranium tier, like whatever they're going to call it. That's the next tier.
Vibranium, perfect.
Yeah. So
I see it happening. I see that as inevitable.
Yep.
But let's pick up.
I also think there was a clue in how they did this in terms of, I think you're going to start to see not just number of nights sailed or number of cruises sailed. You're going to start to see dollars spent. I think when they revamp this program, they're going to start looking at like how much money are you spending on board, and will accelerate you to higher tier status. So yeah.
Kind of like the Delta is doing their frequent flyer miles, that if you don't spend enough, you could buy all the cheap cruises in the world, but you ain't going to get there doing that.
Yep.
You got to be dropping some dollars. And yeah, I could see them doing that as well. Delta has already set precedents for that in their frequent flyer program. But Renee is saying that we just booked our first cruise, August 2022, for a 7-nighter on the Fantasy, which sounds like a wonderful first cruise. Gina's saying, I love the Alaska cruise, but she booked the Wish on to Castaway Key, and she really wants to do the Dover, England cruise too. I don't know if I'm up to going across the pond to get on a boat. I might be more inclined to take the boat across the pond, but I don't know about that one.
There you go. The transatlantic back to back. You transit over, and then you do a cruise, and then you come back. Yeah.
There you go. Right.
Just sell both kidneys and you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kate says that she's on the Thanksgiving Fantasy cruise with you there, Brian.
Oh, nice.
And then Andrew says a 9-nighter on the Fantasy, July 21st, 2022, Southern Caribbean.
Yes.
Southern Caribbean is great. If you ever see, we did the 11-night. They do the 9-night a lot. If you're out there and you're interested in Southern Caribbean, if you ever see them do the 11-night again, grab it. It was an amazing, amazing cruise.
Don't they include ABCs on the 11-night? Oh,
Yeah.
That's the one I want to do.
ABCs, like
Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're the furthest south, and it's tough to get cruises to there. So
Okay. And Andrew was saying that we decided to avoid the hype of the Wish and just go low key. This cruise will be our daughter's first opportunity to experience Palo and the adults area, because I guess she's graduating this year, if I remember your post.
very good.
And okay, so Gina says 2023. I'm looking at Brian. Help me out on the
Halloween on the high seas.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done one of those. We've done one of those. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun. It has all the great Disney touches.
I do pretty good translating the DVC acronyms here live on the fly, but when it comes into the DCL ones, Hoths, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, what does Star Wars have to do with this?
Star Wars Day at Sea.
There you go.
And Mark says, Chad, if you put my name in the mailbox, I can try to do some of those cruises. Okay, well, come on down. Now, talk to Brad. We got a lot of travel agents surrounding our show and our community. I'm sure they'd be glad to get you on something there, Mark. But I'd love to take a cruise with you, Mark. I'm looking forward to living there when you're down in town so that we can get to hang out sometime. And Amy says, my son wants to go to Alaska, but he doesn't have any interest in a cruise, so we may do an ABD instead.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
Not a
that
bad
would be
trade-off.
not a bad trade-off there. Grab your wallet either way.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, That's our 7th cruise, actually. Now that I remember, we have an Adventures by Disney River cruise for the Christmas markets in December of not this
my
December,
God.
but a year
Dude,
out. So,
slip
yeah.
me in your suitcase. Chad doesn't
See?
want to go to Europe, so
See?
just take me.
See what I'm saying there, Brad? I knew there was a 7th one out there. We just had to shake him down and get to the truth.
I had to get him to fess up.
Okay. Well, our next question is, on all of this COVID stuff, what are now your new must-dos, your maybes, and your hard pass skips? So anything change with what you guys are looking forward to? And in the audience as well, we want your comments here. So what are your must-dos? What are your maybes? And what are your skips? Brian, lay it on me here, brother.
I don't know that my must-dos have changed. I think my must-dos are just always going to be pretty similar. I think a must-do on any Disney cruise for me is, Castaway Key is a must-do. If you are choosing between a Bahamian or a Caribbean itinerary, and you're looking at 2, and one of them doesn't include Castaway Key, just stop and choose the one that's Castaway Key. It's kind of a must-do. And I think the other must-do for my wife and I is Palo brunch on board. In terms of the dining, the adult dining experiences, we rate Palo brunch number 1. We think it's an amazing experience. It's a great value. The food is delicious. The setting is wonderful. And so Palo brunch for us is one that we will book every time that we can. The maybes for me, I don't have a ton of maybes or skips. I'm not a big theater person. My wife is, so she goes to all the shows. So I know Disney is known for their shows, and this is like blasphemy. I'm okay if I miss a show or 2 on the ship. I will pick my battles there because I'm just not a big theater person. I still love the atmosphere on the ship.
Now, would you skip one you haven't seen yet?
I would not. I would see, if I haven't seen it yet, I would go see it once. My wife will see them over and over and over again, and she loves them. So I will skip one that I've already
after
seen.
we did that trivia night with Jared, who played Genie and was an actor on all of those deals, like, I gotta go now. Like, I have to go book that now. So yeah.
I think the other, I'll just say one other thing. The other, maybe I'll put this in the maybe bucket for everyone out there. I would say if you get a chance to experience some of the adult areas on the ship or at Castaway, I would put those in your try to do. Head to Satellite Falls on the Dream of the Fantasy.
Absolutely.
Head to Serenity Bay on Castaway Key if you can get a little bit of time away from the kids. It is just so nice to kind of just get that break as adults and have those areas. And I think Disney does it really nicely in terms of making you feel like I'm in a bubble with other adults, and it's calm. And it's almost amazing on the ship. You walk past these 2 dividers on the Dream and the Fantasy, and they can have a deck party going on. And once you're in the adult area, it's like, suddenly it's quiet, and you're like, but I take 10 steps that way, and I'm listening to Mickey and Minnie, rock out over here, but 10 steps over here, and I'm in a quiet area. So I think they do the adult areas really well on Disney Cruise Line. So if you're sailing, even as a family, if you can get some time away, I think I put that in the maybe category.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Brad, what are you thinking?
Yeah. So I'm going to jump on that first, then I'll go to the other part. But man, Brian, you just gave a great example of so many of my potential clients will ask, but isn't Disney just for kids, or aren't there just so many kids? It's so overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, my wife and I have taken multiple couples only trips on Disney, and it's our favorite cruise line to go with just the 2 of us, because the adult areas are just that good. And another reason why is because of one of my must-dos. We must do the rainforest pass every time we get on the cruise.
I was going to say I have been sold on that thing, and I hope it's coming back.
Yeah.
With the whole heated lounger deal and
it'll be interesting. But yeah, Rainforest Pass. If people don't know what that is, I'll make it real simple. It's the pre-service area when you go to any spa. I use on land many times, and as well as on pretty much any ship. Then it has thermal tile loungers, and it has hot tubs and saunas and all kind. And actually in the Wish and the Fantasy, they've got hot tubs out on a deck little like 2 or 3 person. They'll pile 6 in there, but I don't go in with them. That's just too many people, right, Brian? But we love doing the thermal pass. You can buy the pass that lets you go to that every day of the cruise. And little pro tip. We buy it, and then first thing we do when we get up in the morning, Brian, we head straight to the thermal, and we go to the rainforest, and we hang out in there. We just relax and take a sauna, and then in the bathrooms for men, they've got shavers and shaving cream. And I take my shower instead of in the little tiny shower in my cabin. I go down there and take a shower, and roomy shower, and then relax and have a nice sauna. Then I go to breakfast and I'm ready for the day. So we must do for us Rainforest Pass. Also, we live in a small town, and so we are definitely foodies. And so we love Palo, and I'm with you. My only thing is, if money is not the problem, I will over Palo Brunch. I agree on Palo Brunch, except I will take Remy over Palo Brunch. If you just don't look at the price. You don't look at the price. It is the most amazing. I've done chef's table on pretty much every cruise other line when they have them. Nothing like Remy's. Remy's is amazing. So yeah. Those are my 2 must-dos. My maybes would probably be, we do like movies. And after first run movies, we'll go to the movie theater and we'll enjoy those movie theaters. And I do like that. My skip would be shows I've seen already. Yeah. After you've been on enough Disney cruises, I'm with you, Brian. I'm like, you know what? It's a really good show. The first 14 times I saw it. So, yeah, like you said, Chad, if it's a new show, I'll go see it because we enjoy it. We have a little talent, so we wouldn't get to do that kind of stuff. But if it's a show, we got lots of other things to probably do. So usually we'll go enjoy something else somewhere else.
So Palo, Remy, sign me up for whoever can like adopt me on that cruise and put me in on their table. Yeah. Okay.
You bet. I want to give 2 tips to what Brad just said. One is on the rainforest room. I will agree it is an amazing experience. I will slightly disagree and say if you're looking at buying the pass, 2 tips I give. One is I don't buy the whole cruise pass because I have found that I don't use it every day. It's a nice break, but unless you're really committed to going every day, you're going to nag in the back of your mind, oh man, I lost a day.
That's a good point, because we know every day we're there, but most people won't. So that's a good point.
But the other tip on that is you can pre-buy discounted single day passes to the rainforest room ahead of time, and they're just waiting in your stateroom when you show up. And so that is a way to just get a couple, like I usually buy a 2 or 3 days worth of single day passes on a 7-night cruise. And then I will go 2 or 3 days on a 7-night, and you get a little bit of a break on them. 100% agree. Remy is hands down my wife and I's favorite fine dining restaurant. And like you, we are foodies, and we have eaten at some Michelin-starred restaurants, both in the U.S. and outside the U.S. And we think Remy, hands down, is one of the best we've ever eaten at. So if you are adventurous as an eater, Remy is amazing. If you're not, I would maybe steer you over to Palo.
It's Victoria and Albert's at sea is what it is. It's really, it's pretty impressive. Hey, just not to continue to drag it out, but Brian, you might want to let them know, how do you get those passes because you can't just find it online, correct? If you've got your booked cruise, you go to buy excursions, those passes aren't there. So how do you get them?
Yeah, so you have to go for the what do they call, the in-room amenities, I believe, is where you can find them. And so it is a little weird. Yeah, it's sort of like finding the cabanas as activities on Castaway Cay. Yeah. The rainforest passes are not in like the spa booking. They are in the in-room amenities section where you buy like flowers and water and beer and other kinds of in-room celebration packages. They have a place where you can buy single day passes for the rainforest room.
Got it. Pro tip there. Note to self. So Brian, when you get ready to book those, let me know, because
a couple extras.
Well, we don't know. To Brad's point, we don't know if there's a rainforest room on the Wish yet. I hope so, but we don't know yet. Yeah.
Oh, how could they not? But anyways, let's come back in and see what some of the other people have put down here. And Marcus just saying, I'm still trying to get my wife to do our first cruise, so that is a must do. Yes, getting the wife on board is a big one. Andrew is saying, oh, the Palo brunch, the sticky buns. And Brian, I think you've had a thing for sticky buns as well, right?
Oh yes, we had on our 11-night Southern Caribbean. Actually, it was booked up with platinums, and we were worried we would not be able to get a brunch. And we actually had a few people on the cruise offer to bring us sticky buns from Palo if we were unable to secure a reservation because I love the sticky buns from Palo.
Got it. Gina says, must do adult dining, maybe, repeat shows or skip the repeat shows and skip meet and greets.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if I have small kids, the meet and greets, because they're short lines and everything, but
I don't know. You'll see my wife running from meet and greet to meet and greet. She loves meeting those
she likes
characters.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Kate Becker says, if the kids clubs aren't open, it's going to be a difficult decision to sail or not.
I think they'll be open. I think if Disney Cruise Line is going to start back to sailing, the kids clubs will be open. It will be about more your comfort as a parent and sending your kids into the kids club into like a mixed environment of potentially vaccinated and unvaccinated kids. And they'll also, I think, be operating at more of a reduced
and it'll be a mask mandate.
Is there any other cruise line out there that even comes close to having kids as a target market? I mean,
they all try. None of them hit the target. Sorry. And I've been on most of them. So that kid thing will be a big issue for Disney Cruise Line. And Gina says, on our Alaska cruise, I didn't see a child until excursion day. Isn't that crazy? Everybody says there's so many kids on the ship. There is, but you just don't see them because they're having so much fun. My kids club cry if I try to go get them. Like, no, let us sleep over. We don't want to. It's like, okay, well, you have to talk to your counselors about that. But
okay. And Samantha's saying she might go to the main dining rooms more often for breakfast and lunch instead of cabanas in the COVID era.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that could be a really good point there as well. And she's also saying, as Brian said, I'll be at all the shows, even if I have to go by myself. So Samantha, on our cruise, I will be right there with you. And I'm willing to bet my wife will be joining us as well, because I think she really enjoys that as well.
There is a good tip there on the shows that I would offer, which is we discovered Sam loves to go in person. We discovered with our son, who's younger and doesn't always love to sit through the whole show, they broadcast them on your stateroom television. So if you want to hang back in your stateroom with a little one and still catch the show, we've done that before, and it's kind of nice.
Oh, okay. And then Andrew says, don't forget Platinum Castaway Club members get one free Palo visit.
Yes.
And okay, that's a rush to Platinum, but I think they're going to move that bar up. So we'll have to see, because I mean they've been doing this for how many years now, Brian? Like,
since the cruise line started sailing, they've had the Castaway Club. So what was that, 1990? God, what was the year they first sailed? Was it 1996, 97? I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
So we're coming up on 25 years, and it's 10 or more. So there's got to be a bunch of people that have really kind of hit that, to really just come back in and hit that level of performance there. So Samantha says 1998. Okay. 1998, yeah. That's all I've got for questions tonight. Does anybody else out there have any cruise questions for Brian or Brad while we can tap their expertise? I am like tippy-toeing into unfamiliar waters with this one. So I just throw that out there if there's any other questions before we wrap up today's show.
Hey, Brad, I'll pose a question to you because I saw we have show notes offline, and Brad had a comment that I would love to get his take on, maybe because I slightly disagree with it. But the Wish, you sort of have I think the opinion that the Wish bookings are going to get even more crazy in the next release cycle. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and of course this is all people pontificating. My reasoning in that is that I think a lot of people. I think the desire for Wish is growing even more after they got hammered for the first one. So I think the rush in the beginning is going to be even more, because there's going to be more people that missed out the first time going, okay, I got to get there first thing. So I'm just mainly saying, in the start, as bad as it was this time, I think the second round is going to be tougher, but that's, could be dead wrong. You've done a lot more Disney than me. So.
Well, it makes sense, because you're going to have more vaccination. You're going to have more information. You're going to have people are going to be more comfortable with getting back on a cruise ship, as opposed to this, those things are floating Petri dishes kind of a mindset. So I think it's going to come back in with a vengeance when it does come back. I'm with you, Brad. That we haven't seen nothing yet, but
I'll be curious if they return to the normal booking strategy.
Yeah,
Or
instead of
we're
this,
gonna,
that was bizarre. the way they-
yeah. But it is fascinating to me that there's still I was just looking at the site. There's like 29 sailings on the Wish with available. Like the only category of stateroom that's sold out across is concierge.
Concierge.
it.
Yep.
That's it. Everything else still has
gone.
availability across most of the sailings. So it'll be
When
interesting.
I got
to
on
see
the
that.
27th as a gold member, which was early, there was pretty much not concierge on any cruise that was up online.
go Florida resident rate. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. But hey, listen, if they want to book the rest of those rooms, don't gouge us like you did that one day. I'd have booked, but it was just like, oh my gosh, now I'm for a 4-day cruise for that.
Yeah.
Gonna-
Yeah.
Let me see, trip to Europe, ABD trip, or a cruise on the Wish. I think
two 7-night sailings on the Fantasy or a 3-night on the Wish. Yeah.
or inside stateroom 3 nights.
Yeah. So Kate Becker wants to know, what do you guys predict when DCL will start sailing again here? Give me a date, guys. Give me a date. Public sailing.
Public passenger sailing, I'm going to say it's going to be August, sometime between August 15th and the end of August. That's my guess. That my prediction here is Celebrity Apex is supposed to be sailing out of Florida starting at the end-ish of June.
Yep.
And I think Disney will lag them by a good month to 6 weeks. So I'm thinking it's going to be sometime between August 15th and the end of August.
And I'm, I'd seen that in Brian's notes, and I completely agree. Because, well, first of all, I trust him because he's dialed in. But no, I completely agree. Disney's proven over and over again they're not in a hurry. They want to get it right first time. And I think that's back to what we were talking about before. I don't think Disney's running scared. What Disney is doing is saying, we don't want to do this and make a mistake and suddenly have the CDC and everybody go backwards. So we're going to make sure when we launch, we stay launched. So yeah, I'm thinking mid-August. And Brian, you mentioned before, I think you're right. I hate to tell people, but I wouldn't hold your breath on Alaska cruises in Disney this year.
I saw Scott Sanders and I over at the DCL blog were having kind of a back and forth with somebody on Twitter about this. And, there is a season to salvage, and they would get the Baja cruises, the Mexican Riviera cruises at the tail end of it. But they're a 4-ship cruise line right now. Are they really going to pay to send the Wonder through the Panama Canal and, sail her up to Alaska just to get a little bit of an Alaska season in?
And it would be a shortened season. So
yeah. And the biggest barrier they have right now, I think, is crew. It's not paying passengers, it's crew. And remember, you got to get crew vaccinated if they want to meet the CDC requirements, and they still got to do test cruises, right? Because if Disney's going to have unvaccinated kids on board, right now, I don't think there's an allowance for that through the CDC guidelines to skip the test cruises. So you're going to see them do test cruises before they start selling to, paying passengers. So there's time here. There's time. We're gonna have to wait. So.
Yep, we'll see.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So, okay, well, that pretty much wraps up our show for tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and thank DVC Rental Store, Monera Financial, and DVC Resale Market for sponsoring Season 5 of the My DVC Points podcast. Hopefully, guys, you learned something in tonight's discussion that'll help you go out there and plan something magical on a Disney cruise line for your family. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And just as a side note, our staff is going to be taking off this entire summer. So we will be back right after Labor Day and Sunday nights at 9:00 at our normal time with a revamped show. And we're going to be taking the summer off because a lot of our crew is teachers and they want a little bit of a break. So we kind of looked at this, and I know I'm probably going to be looking for employment this summer because I got that dreaded note from mine that October 9th, I'm out of a job. So good news is I got plenty of time and plenty of opportunities in front of me, and I'm a pretty skilled person. So I'm not too worried about it at this point in time, but that's where my focus is going to be over the summer as well. So if anybody out there listening to this knows anybody in the telecommunications industry that's hiring a call center technology person, Chad will throw his
your guy.
hat. Yeah, I will throw my hat into the pile. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. You guys have a great night, and we will be back this September. Have a good one.